Yeah.
And can we talk business for a second? I know it's your least favorite thing to talk about.
Yes,
You
I
you
know.
mentioned
Well, I'm gonna say
earlier.
only because I
Uh,
sound like not that well informed of a person, but go
well,
ahead, expose me.
one of the things that I've seen and heard so often when it comes to people creating their own opportunities is that the creation of opportunities takes money, right? And you're nodding your head like you've experienced that before,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So what were your first steps? Like, do you have donors? Did you sell tickets and like put everything on a credit card beforehand? Like, how does the funding work for
Yeah.
Lyric Opera?
So the very first thing I ever did was shop a program around. And this was just a recital um themed concert event. And basically I went to other organizations that create events for their members and said, "Hey, I would love to create an event for your members and have you contract us in. Here's the budget of what I would need to make it possible to get real professionals." And there's something about people who don't know the opera world, they want to see all of the accolades, right? Singers and musicians were not as kind of impressed by our friends' accolades as much. Like, don't get me wrong, if you earned something and you did it and you crushed it, that's awesome. But convincing outside people that your singers are professionals and are good enough, you can only do it on paper for the most part when you're pitching an idea. So like it is important to be able to have those humble brags in your back pocket with the singers you're working with. Um, but essentially, here's what it's going to cost me, and you have to remember that nobody in this entire universe, except for maybe you, whoever you are listening, right, it's going to do something purely for the mission and the love of it, right? There has to be a benefit to them, and so you have to be able to project realistically without totally disappointing them any benefit to that they would have, right? Whether it's ticket sales and what they would make off of it, exposure from partnerships that you already have, any media attention that it would bring them, XYZ. So that's kind of how it started. Um, I was able to say, hey, we're going to, I need a contracting check for $3,000, so I can pay 4 professional singers and a pianist plus rent a piano, um, which was way more expensive than I realized at the time, but they covered the other half of that cost that wasn't included in the three because your facility doesn't have a piano.
Mhm.
Um, and you can sell tickets for X number of dollars. You can make a special discount offering for your members. So we're going to bring in our own audience and you can keep all the ticket fees on that. But you can incentivize your audience, which will then further build my audience by giving them, $20 off, so making their tickets $40 instead. And it was something new. It was on mission for that organization that brought us in the first time, and it worked. And we've gone back to that every 2 years basically and done a performance. And so we do have a little following in partnership with them now. So that was kind of the first ever anything because I had a whole lot of nothing. And then once it was scheduled, I was able to go to some businesses and say, "Hey, would you like to sell a program ad?" And I really hate doing that because programs are actually super like costly to have physical programs, especially if they're going to look nice. But we ended up getting like the local Staples to do an in-kind donation, and they printed for free. And then we got a couple of $500 donations um, uh, within the program itself. Um, and knowing that by the time we like had gotten to the point where I had to be getting donations for the program for that one event, I realized what I wanted to do and what the long game was going to be on this. Um, so the smartest thing I did, and it was probably more of a coincidence than an intelligent decision, but was
The best things are
I
sometimes, right?
yeah I had been, like I said, I took some time off of singing and music, and so to kind of get myself back in shape, I joined a local community choir and started volunteering in a church choir next door and just met people that way, right? And so this community choir, um, I went to them and I said, "Hey, I already started this opera company. I'd like to make it a real thing. It's not in competition with what you do, but we all have the same goals and loves and, um, would you be open to a fiscal sponsorship for the
Mm,
next year where I can become an umbrella under the choir, do all my own stuff, um, and you can take a percentage off the top of whatever donations come in because we would be using your tax ID. And because we have a whole lot of nothing. I started the company with $300 and somebody let me borrow their garage to build sets and costumes. Um, and and they were so supportive. They said, "Yeah, and you don't have to give us anything off the top. This is great. Just tell us when you think, do you think you can really have your nonprofit status and all that stuff within a year and a half or whatever it was?" And I said, "Yep." And we did. So from the beginning, financially, it's always been about community and making sure that the community felt some ownership in what
yeah.
I was doing because if we're just doing it for the musicians to have a stage, then nobody's going to care, frankly. Um, it has to be about more than just you. And so all of those kind of choices actively brought in donors and people who felt vested in the organization from the start. Um, and then, eventually when we did get our nonprofit status and all this stuff, it wasn't just like, okay, bye. I still work with that group has a lot of my good friends in it and some of my advisors, some of my board members now. We work together whenever possible, that kind of a thing. So I mean, it's all good business should be about relationships as far as I'm concerned and relationship building, especially when you're doing something that is regional and specific to the community that you're a part of. So
I
that's
think
my
it's
super intelligent business advice.
well, I think it's such an
Numbers.
interesting transition that so many folks have gone through that I've spoken with, where they go from when you're just studying and just singing, it's a very internally focused thing of like I need to get myself better so I can do my thing better and I can sing the
Right.
high C and I can do this and do that, and then everything that you just said is an exact reflection of the a 180 from that, because it's
Mhm.
now how do I get more people involved?
Right.
How do I embrace the community and give them a value proposition
Yeah.
essentially of like here's the value that you get from coming to this and from supporting this,
hmm
and
hmm
that's
And that
awesome.
your children will have from having it as part of their community and the
Yeah.
right, absolutely. I I firmly believe now, and I still don't know if I can put it into words well, um, that no matter what it is that you choose to do, you have to have a mission that isn't just about your own growth.